Hello, everybody. I am Gene Edwards, host and producer of Oilers This Week. I am well aware that my channel is still in its infancy stages and my subscription counts are low. That being said, if I can get 1, 10, or even 100 people to make a donation to the Ukrainian Crisis Relief Fund of their choosing, then I felt I've done a good job. Going forward, I will be doing all my framework in the Ukrainian colors. So my Oilers reviews, my 2 questions for Sammy, the framework will be in the blue and yellow to show support for the Ukrainian people. Below is a QR code to the Canadian Red Cross. I urge anyone that can afford to, please help out by making a donation to assist the people of Ukraine, as our brothers and sisters so desperately need it overseas. Know that Canadians stand by you. Know that you're in our hearts and thoughts, and our prayers are with you. Thank you. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Gene Edwards. This is Oilers This Week, episode number 8, week ending March the 5th, 2022. Lots to cover this week. I'm covering the 3 games that happened, which was against the Canes, Flyers, and Hawks. I will also be having a discussion with Sammy on the 2 questions for Sammy segment, pertaining to the residual effects of what's going on overseas. I'm also adding in a brand new series this week. I am doing the life and career of an Edmonton Oiler, and this week it is Kevin Lowe. The reason why I chose Kevin Lowe is he's been in every single role in this organization, from player to coach to general manager to president of hockey operations. So he's been through it all, and I feel it's only fair to give him the very first shout out. This series is called Once an Oiler, Always an Oiler. So I'm adding that series in, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So starting off this week, the lines are Foegele, McDavid, Hyman, Kane, Draisaitl, Sevier, McLeod, Shore, Ryan, Benson, Perlini, and Broberg is your 7th defenseman. Nurse and Barry, Legason and Ceci, Niemelainen and Bouchard are your defensive pairings. Smith and Koskinen are your goaltending tandem. On the IR, you have Klefbom. You have Archibald, and I believe Archibald is... I'm hearing rumors that he might actually make a comeback from that heart condition, which is great news. Not even as a hockey player standpoint, but just as a personal point for health-wise. So that's awesome. Turris, Cassian, and Keith. And I think Keith is going to be back this week. Puljujarvi, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Yamamoto are day-to-day. Okay, as far as my plus-minus stats go, for goals per game, the Oilers stand pat in 9th position. The shooting percentage, they actually gained 1 spot, moving up to 12th. Power play, they moved up 1 spot to 3rd. Penalty kill, though, however, they got a little bit of a hit on as they went down 4 spots to 26th. Goals against average, they lost a spot to 23rd. And save percentage, they actually went up 1 spot. So a little bit of fluctuation this week. Nothing too crazy. Anyway, let's dive into the game reviews, starting with the Carolina Hurricanes. All right, let's review the Edmonton Oilers versus the Carolina Hurricanes for February the 27th, 2022. Before I get started with the scoring summary and stats, there was a couple notes that happened in this first period. One of concern and one of laughter almost. The concern was sloppy stick work by Brady Shea of the Carolina Hurricanes managed to clip Connor McDavid pretty good in the mouth. I do think he lost a couple teeth in the process. Luckily, that's all it was because he was gone for the rest of the first period. And with Zach Kassian out with a broken jaw, I was thinking the worst. However, he did return in the second. The humorous note was they had a stanchion come loose in the Carolina end, so the ice crew had to come in and do this repair job that honestly should take literally 2 minutes to fix. However, as they were taking the stanchion out, it got caught in the protective netting in the back. This led to a 15-minute delay as they were trying to untangle this stanchion out of the net, which was actually the broadcast crew were calling them the Three Stooges, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was something that shouldn't take that long. I've seen glass repair, like shattered glass, get cleaned up, fixed, everything within 3 minutes. So this thing took about 15 minutes to fix. So it was kind of brutal watching. Anyway, as far as the scoring summary goes, there was 2 goals in the first period, both of which by the Hurricanes. It started with Teuvo Teravainen getting his 15th at 11:57 from Chatfield and Svechnikov, followed by Sebastian Aho at 16:53 by Teravainen at Svechnikov. So it's 2-0 after one. Both goals really tough ones for Mike Smith to save. I can't really fault him on it. Actually, to be honest with you, Mike Smith did play a great game today. That being said, I hope the Oilers are still in search of a goal of a number one goaltender, because this on-off thing just can't work. One day they're awesome, the next day they're horrible. One day they're awesome, the next day they're horrible. So I hope that Ken Holland is still working the phone to try to get us a goaltender. There was no goals scored in the second period, and only 1 goal in the third period, and that was by, once again, Derek Ryan. He's been on fire since Jay Woodcroft has taken over. When I get into the stats portion, I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. So anyway, the final was 2-1. Oilers played an amazing game. The outcome wasn't quite what you would want, but as far as the effort, I can't fault them on this game. They played a really good game. They met my expectations, and they just fell short. Carolina, I think, is the second best team in the league, next to only Colorado's above them, I believe. So, yeah, unfortunately, they did lose, but they played a real good game, and I think they can take a lot from this game as far as confidence goes. As far as Derek Ryan goes, I had to do a little digging on this one because I just wanted to see what was what. So, in his first 40 games of this year, he has 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points. He now has 9 games under Jay Woodcroft, so he has 49 games totally played now. In the past 9 games under Jay Woodcroft, he has 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. So he has a higher point total in the last 9 games than he had in the first 40 games under Tippett. That speaks volumes about how Tippett was actually managing his bench. So, kudos for Derek Ryan for rebounding the way he is, and kudos for Jay Woodcroft for utilizing all his tools that he has at his disposal. As far as the stats go, this was close. I'm going to explain this right away, how close this actually was. Shots, 30-29 for Edmonton. Hits, 29-27, Edmonton. The face-off percentage, Carolina was heavily favored on that, as they won 60.4% of the face-offs. Both teams had 4 penalties. Carolina led in block shots 11-10. So yeah, that just goes to show you how close of a game this was. 2-1 final. Draisaitl led the forwards with 3 hits, and Nima Lion once again led the D with 6 hits, and Nurse had 5. Smith, a not too shabby 931 save percentage. So I don't fault the Oilers on this one. I think everyone was playing great hockey. Goaltenders, everyone was playing really good. It just they fell short on this one. So next up for the Oilers is the Philadelphia Flyers on Tuesday. All right, welcome back, Sammy. How are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. How are you doing?
I am doing reasonably good. I very, very worried about what we're seeing going on overseas right now. It is so we're going to talk about those topics tonight. I just want to make it well known that that I am 100% against what the Putin regime is doing to the Ukrainians right now. It's actually, I consider it a crime at the highest level, because the topics I'm going to get into is actually kind of supporting Russian athletes and that. So I don't want it to be misconstrued to me thinking that what Putin's doing is okay. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so we seen Alexander's Ovechkin's reaction last week when he was asked whether he was like what his thoughts were on what was going on in the Ukraine. And he was very neutral with his comment. And I thought, my personal opinion, I thought it was very admirable of him, because it's one of those questions you can't win on. You can't answer that thing correctly without getting some kind of negative effect. If you say that you support Putin, then you're hated by the United States. If you say you're against it, he's potentially putting his family at risk. If you're being neutral, which he was, you got people really questioning him too. And now there's endorsements he's losing and so forth and so forth. So my thoughts on it, it's a lose-lose situation. What are your thoughts, Sammy?
I'd agree with you on that lose-lose situation. I mean, I'm with you as well. I completely am against it, obviously, and I 100% my full support goes with the Ukrainians. 100%. I think it's a senseless war and a senseless fight that's going on. And like you said, it's just Putin trying to gain control. I do also stand with those Russian players. Russia as a whole, most citizens don't agree with what's going on. Right? Don't support it at all. We've seen lots of people get arrested for trying to protest against it. And so I think Ovechkin, given his statement of, like you said, neutrality, is very smart on his part. Because like you said, you don't know what the consequences could be for him on the opposing side back home. You don't know what the consequences could be currently in the United States with him being there for whatever answer he might give for or against. And that goes for any other Russian players, whether it be Vasilevsky, Svechnikov, Malkin, whoever. It could be the same situation. And it's unfortunate. You know, none of them want to deal with this. None of them want to talk about it. It's hard. This is a hard thing for them to have to go through, for them to have to deal with. I would argue it's obviously harder for the Ukrainians and for anyone that's of Ukrainian descent having to deal with it and having their country attacked and their citizens attacked and killed. It's a lose-lose situation for everyone, for literally anyone involved. There's no victory that's going to come of this. It's just going to be an end to the conflict. And in my opinion, there's not going to be, yep, we won, or this was a victory. It's going to end.
Yeah, it's not too often that war ends on a good note. Actually, it never happens. It never happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Now part 2 of that. I know it's kind of a heavily loaded week with questions. We're going to get back to the lighter stuff, like more hockey stuff going forward next week. Let's talk about inclusion, how we hear this word inclusion a lot. And ever since Black Lives Matters, we really, really heard it ever since the murders in the States, and the police brutality and all that kind of stuff. Um, so this word inclusion says allow everyone, but now we're starting to see the residual effects from this war, and I'm going to call it the Putin war because I don't think it's the Russian war. The Russians, like you said, are actually protesting, and thousands of Russians are getting arrested daily because of this.
Mhm.
But because of this, the IIHF, FIFA, even just recently, the Paralympics now have banned Belarusian and Russian teams. So what is it? Is it inclusion? Is it not inclusion? Where's that fine line?
Yeah. Inclusion definitely, like you said, has been something that's talked about a lot, especially over the last 2 years. It's really been heightened, obviously because of what happened in the United States in 2020 with George Floyd and with that Black Lives Matter movement. Um, I think there is a difference between the inclusion of African American players and between like nationalities. There is a difference between that, between race and nationality. But it is a fine line because you can still think of, excluding people of a different nationality as racism or prejudice or whatever you get. It's that fine line, like you said. And I think those committees, the IOC, the Olympic Committee, IIHF, FIFA, the CHL, even Canadian Hockey League is doing the same thing, where
Yes.
they canceled their Canada Russia series.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're all, they're playing it safe. They don't want any sort of to risk any kind of backlash. They don't want to risk any sort of residual effects because of this. Because if they do allow Russians to compete, a Russian team or a Belarusian team to compete, or allow these international teams to compete and to go on, then they risk residual effects. They risk backlash. They could risk losing, money or funds or whatever for whatever's going on. They could, especially with the World Juniors coming up and with the Olympics, they could risk not that cash flow or money because people don't want anything to do with it if they got all these Russian players and whatever, right? And so I think they're playing it safe, and that's probably the smart move. I'd say it's probably the smart move. And again, it's you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like
No kidding.
it's hard.
No kidding.
Right?
Yeah.
Again,
Especially like I'm totally supportive if a player is supporting what the Putin regime is doing. Yeah, ban him. Like, don't let him
yep,
play.
I agree.
That's 100% like, okay, if you want to support this criminal act, then yeah, no, I'm sorry, you don't play. But a lot of these kids, not, and that's where I started wondering. A lot of these kids, they work their lives to become Olympians, hockey players, all that. They put a lot of time into training to do this, and now because I'll call it right out, some lunatic in Eastern
Yep.
Europe is basically altering their life by
Yep.
making these decisions to invade Ukraine. So
Yep.
it's uh, it's a horrible situation. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, guys, there is I've asked for people to donate. I'm putting a little donation segment in on every episode as long as this war is continuing. Just a little thing to either donate to the Canadian Red Cross or whatever. We are Canadians. We need to stand by our brothers and sisters overseas. So please consider making donations and helping them. Sammy, it's always nice chatting with you, buddy. And thanks for your insight. It's uh it's a mess. It really is a mess over there. Um we just can only pray for them and hope for the best, right, Sam?
Exactly. 100% agree, my friend.
Okay, Sammy, I'll see you next week, buddy.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Okay. All right, let's review the game for the Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers for March the 1st, 2022. It was a 3-0 shutout win for Mika Koskinen. However, I'm going to nitpick on this game a little bit, and I know I shouldn't, but I am. This game was very choppy for the most part. The third period got better, but the first two periods, choppy, unorganized. Couldn't seem to get plays, couldn't get any fluency to the plays. Horrible penalties by both teams, especially Philadelphia. But Mika Koskinen also put us at high risk by flipping one over the glass while they were killing a penalty to give the Flyers a 51-second two-man advantage. So there was things about this game, despite it being a 3-0 win, that I really didn't like about it. The other thing I noticed in this game that just struck a nerve with me and actually kind of pissed me off a little bit is I believe it was 2 or 3 times that the Oilers shot the puck down the ice and were able to beat the Flyer player to the puck, which should have negated the icing call. However, they blew the whistle on all these occasions, and I'm like, well, what's the rule on this? Like, they clearly beat him to the puck, so I don't know about that one. And I think it was either that or the lack of communication on the ice, but something pissed off Connor McDavid because he was showing some frustration on the bench in this game. So it could be the inability of the refs. It could be the communication. I don't know. But there was something. You could see McDavid venting his frustrations. Okay, so let's get to the scoring summary of this game. There was a goal in each period, and it was all by the Oilers. In the first period, it was at 17:41 by Leon Draisaitl. That's his 37th goal of the year, and I believe that ties him for Austin Matthews for the lead. That was from Nurse and McDavid. In the second period, the definition garbage goal. This was a garbage goal, and it kind of surprises me that it's an unassisted goal considering there were so many sticks on the puck. But Kyler Yamamoto gets his 11th at 15:10, and it is, like I say, unassisted. That kind of surprised me because so many Oilers sticks were touching it. So I don't know how that was unassisted, but it was. And then in the third period, Connor McDavid gets the empty net from tic-tac-toe play from Hyman and Draisaitl. It is your final 3-0. Kane led the team in hits with 5. Niemelainen only 2 tonight, which kind of surprised me. He's usually a little bit more noticeable. Malone was 100% on the face-off dot. I believe there was 4 or 5 attempts, but each time Malone got a face-off win, so that was pretty cool of him. The season series ends at 1 game apiece. Now, if you do recall, the Philadelphia Flyers were the first team to hand the Oilers their first loss of the season back on October 27th, 2021, and that made the Oilers 5-1 at the time. So this time they got the sweet revenge in their barn, and that's it. So that's it. The Oilers win. They are now currently temporarily third in the position. As I'm speaking right now, the Vegas Golden Knights are playing, so that's probably going to change again because they are playing the San Jose Sharks, and I think Vegas has a better chance of winning that game. So anyway, I will talk to you soon, guys. Kevin Hugh Lowe, born April 15th, 1959, is a Canadian professional ice hockey executive, former coach, and former player. Lowe is the vice chairman of Oilers Entertainment Group, having formerly served as head coach and then general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. As a defenseman, he played for the Edmonton Oilers and New York Rangers. Over his career, Lowe won the Stanley Cup 6 times. In 1990, he was awarded the King Clancy Memorial Trophy and was named to the Order of Canada in 2021. In his background and early playing career, Lowe played 3 seasons of junior hockey, starting in 1976 with the Quebec Ramparts of the QMJHL. He scored 42 goals, 131 assists for 173 points in 201 games he played. With 245 penalty minutes in the 1978-79 season, he was named the first English-speaking captain of a QMJHL team. He was drafted in the first round, 21st overall, of the 1979 NHL entry draft by the Edmonton Oilers, the first franchise ever draft selection. In his playing career, Lowe played 13 full seasons in his first stint with the Oilers and helped them to 5 Stanley Cups. As the alternate captain during the first tenure, Lowe was regarded as the third among equals when it came to leaders on the Oilers' 1980 dynasty, along with Wayne Gretzky, team captain, and Mark Messier, alternate captain. During the Oilers' run to the 1988 Stanley Cup, Lowe played with a broken wrist and a full cast, a potential explanation for his point totals of 0 goals, 2 assists for 2 points in 19 games. Yet he didn't seem to miss a single playoff game. On the night that the Oilers won the Cup, Wayne Gretzky informed the media that Lowe was hiding broken ribs throughout the playoffs. Lowe became team captain for the 1991-92 season after Mark Messier was traded to the New York Rangers, leading the Oilers to an ugly 1-5-1 start in early October. The team overcame the change of the captaincy to finish with a 36-34-10 record. The Oilers traded him to the New York Rangers in December 1992. Lowe was a restricted free agent in 1994. He won the Stanley Cup with 6 other ex-Oilers: Glenn Anderson, Jeff Bukaboom, Adam Graves, Craig McTavish, Mark Messier, and Esa Tikkanen, bringing his personal total to 6. In 1996, he rejoined the Oilers as a free agent and played another full season. He started the 1997-98 season with the Oilers as well, but only played 7 games before being forced to retire due to an inner ear virus that affected his balance. In total, Lowe played in 1,254 regular season games, scoring 84 goals, 347 assists, for a total of 431 points with 1,498 penalty minutes. He added another 214 playoff games, scoring 10 goals, 48 assists for 58 points, and earning 192 playoff minutes. Lowe played more regular season and playoff games in an Edmonton Oilers uniform than any other in franchise history. 1,037 regular season, 172 playoff games. He was the team's first ever NHL draft pick, and he also scored the first ever NHL goal for the Edmonton Oilers, a power play goal against the Chicago Blackhawks, assisted by Wayne Gretzky and Brett Kelligan. Gretzky's first NHL point. Many believe Gretzky tipped the shot. During his professional hockey career, Lowe did not play a single game in the minor leagues, and his teams only once failed to make the playoffs. Lowe joined the Oilers staff in 1998 as an assistant head coach. In 1999, he took over head coaching duties from Ron Lowe. He was head coach for just a single season, winning 32 out of the 82 games, 32, 26, 16, and 8, and getting the Oilers to the first round of the playoffs, where they fell to the Dallas Stars with a record of 1-4. He was promoted to general manager of the Oilers in 2000 when longtime GM Glenn Sather left for the New York Rangers. He remained the Oilers' executive vice president and general manager until 2008 and 2009, the season when he was promoted to president of hockey operations. Lowe has been responsible for assisting Canadian national teams. He was a member of the management team for the men's Canadian ice hockey team in the 2002 Winter Olympics that won gold medal. He also was the manager for the 2004 World Cup of Hockey team. In addition, he managed Team Canada at the World Hockey Championships. In the 2006-2007 NHL offseason, Lowe offered contracts to restricted free agents Thomas Vanek, which was matched by the Buffalo Sabres. then to Anaheim forward Dustin Penner, which was signed following an offer sheet to Penner. Brian Burke, then GM of the Anaheim Ducks, publicly blamed Lowe for inflation of player salary, accusing Lowe of a colossal stupidity. Lowe did not respond to Burke's attacks until July 4th, 2008 on a local radio show, Total Sports with Bob Stauffer, calling Burke a moron and a media junkie. Lowe's number 4 was not retired by the Oilers until 2021. He had been the only player in the Edmonton Oilers NHL history to wear the number 4 until issuing it to Taylor Hall, the Oilers' first overall draft pick in 2010. Chris Russell wore number 4 for the Oilers as well until the beginning of the 2021-22 season. Lowe is the younger brother of former Edmonton Oilers head medical trainer Ken Lowe. He is married to Canadian Olympian Karen Percy and is the father of Bakersfield Condor Keegan Lowe, who was drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes, 3rd round, 73rd overall in the 2011 NHL entry draft. Lowe's oldest son is a Canadian filmmaker, Shane Fennessy. Kevin is also the uncle of Melissa Love, Canadian bobsled athlete. His personal awards and achievement consist of being named to the Hockey Hall of Fame in the class of 2020, primary defenseman during his playing career. Lowe was the first defenseman named to the Hall of Fame since Rod Langway in 2002. Lowe was the final member of the Oilers group of 7 to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. On February 26, 2021, Lowe was named to the Order of Canada in recognition of his career and contributions to the game in Canada. All right, let's review the Edmonton Oilers versus the Chicago Blackhawks for March the 3rd, 2022. Going into this game, the Chicago Blackhawks have won 8 of the last 11 games. But I guess now that Chicago won this game 4-3 in overtime, it's now 9 of the past 12 games. For whatever reason, the Blackhawks have the Edmonton Oilers number. Once again, it's that on-off Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing with Mikko Koskinen, as he let in a very early goal. I thought he should have had that puck. The second goal, definitely not. I think the second one was near impossible to save. But it was one of those nights again that, it's like I said in the last episode, that we need. I love Koskinen when he's playing really well. We need that consistency out of him, and I've always said that ever since I've been doing these podcasts. So I'm hoping that we can get a goalie that is consistent. I mean, you're gonna have, like, every goalie's gonna have an off night, but anyway, I don't want to beat up too much on Koskinen because he did play some really good games in the last few days for us. So I don't want to beat him up too much. As far as the scoring summary goes, like I said, it started very early at 2:34. It was Sam Lafferty, his second from Carpenter and Kurashev. Leon Draisaitl on the power play from McDavid and Barry. Now, this power play was the second penalty by Chicago in the first period of too many men on the ice. So obviously there was some communication errors that Chicago was dealing with in the first period. At a minute and 20 seconds later, at 16:55, Patrick Kane gets the lead for Chicago from Caleb Jones and Dylan Strome. And then Evander Kane gets a late one at 19:26. This is his 6th from Nurse and Draisaitl. There was no scoring in the second period. We go to the third period where Dominik Kubalik takes the lead, unassisted, his 11th at 2:49. And once again, the late hit wonder Evander Kane, while having 6-on-5, with the Oilers pulling their goalie, manages to bank one in off of a Chicago defender, and we go to overtime. In overtime, Leon Draisaitl takes a penalty, and the Chicago Blackhawks make good with it as Alex DeBrincat gets his 30th from Kane and Jones. It is a 4-3 final. As far as the stats go, Brad Malone led in hits for forwards. Actually, he led in hits for the whole team, to be honest with you, with 5 hits. William Lagesson led the D-men with 4. Both McDavid and Draisaitl were 25 minutes plus, so I'm hoping we're not trending back to the old burn out the superstars mode again, like Tippett was doing. It was a little concerning, especially when I looked at Nurse's numbers, 2709. So they were quite heavy numbers. That being said, we are a bit of a depleted lineup with injuries, and we had another one last night as Tyson Barrie left the game with an upper body injury. Shots were 32 apiece. Chicago out-hit us 32-23. So that's was part of the reason why Edmonton wasn't really ramping it up. And then the Oilers actually were pretty good on the face-off as they won 60% of the face-offs. So now the season series is 2-1 for Chicago. And this wraps up my games for the week because I am not going to cover the Montreal game on Saturday as it is a late game. This is going to go on episode 9 of Oilers This Week. So we will move on. All right, guys, so another week has come and gone. The Oilers are currently 9th in the West and 4th in the Pacific, so they are on the outside looking in. They are chasing Vegas Golden Knights and do have a game on hand with the Vegas Golden Knights at 66 points. Both Nashville and Dallas are have a game on us, and Dallas is at 65 points, Nashville at 64 points. As far as teams that are chasing the Oilers, Anaheim's chasing us, but we have 2 games on hand on them. They're at 61. Vancouver, they have 60 points, and we have 1 game in hand. Winnipeg is at 58 points, but even games. Next week's schedule, it's another tough one as the Oilers are playing the resurging Montreal Canadiens. This is a Saturday night game. They also have the red-hot Calgary Flames. And I'm pretty sure the Washington Capitals are going to want some sweet revenge after they lost to them a few weeks back. So it's going to be tough for the Oilers. They have to dig deep here and find a way. Anyway, guys, we will see you next week on episode 9.